Good evening everybody and welcome to the studio this evening. I trust everybody is well, and if you will excuse my voice, I fortunately appear to have a cold, so my voice may vary a little bit this evening. Right, time to get on with some more of this elephant. No, a lion of course. Don't know what, well, no, I literally don't know why I might choose to say an elephant. I did choose specifically not to say a lion, but why elephant, I don't know. Seemed like a good choice at the time. Okay, to pick a catchphrase, heat 'em up, which is what we're about to do. And it's going to be an episode of lots of hair. Lots and lots and lots of hair. This area needs to get darker. Some of this area needs to get darker. And I need to disguise that line there a little bit. That's a line that's actually been caused by the grain of the wood. Whilst birch, the grain is quite good in terms of pyrography. Occasionally it will show up like that. The hard bit of the grain doesn't take pyrography quite as well as the rest, and so sometimes you get that effect. So we might see if we can disguise that a little bit. But in the meantime now, we're just adding more and more dark hair. So here we go. By the way, whilst the subject just comes to mind, in case you notice this particular pen, I frequently have been using it that way up. I'm now using it that way up. There's no right way or wrong way up to use a pen. Even the other pens that are shaders like this, there's no actual right or wrong way. It is intended to be used this way. But when you want to create very sharp lines, using it that way is perfectly acceptable and works quite well. So no right way, no wrong way, just use it whatever way it produces the effect that you're after. So I'm using this kind of like a graphics tablet, in that what I'm doing is looking at the output from the camera on the OBS window, and what it's allowing me to do is to keep my head up, which if you've ever had a cold is a good thing to do. But that's why I'm looking straight ahead of me rather than down at the piece of work, is I'm actually watching the video output. Good evening, MTS, in which case of course you have no idea that I'm responding to your comment, but hi MTS. And just in case you are listening to just that bit, thank you for the comment. Fantastic of you to do that. Thank you. And good luck to your football team. Says Seb's Elite. Good evening. Welcome to the studio this evening. Pyrography. Literal translation of pyrography is writing with fire. From Greek roots. The modern definition of pyrography is probably more better translated with as drawing with heat, since effectively that's what I'm doing. No burning involved. The tools are not hot enough to actually burn, which is a process of oxidizing. This is more of a process of cooking. So the heat is cooking the top surfaces, top cells of the piece of wood. Cooking turns them brown. The brown is what you're seeing here. The more you cook it, the darker it gets. So good guess, close, except no burning involved. If you look out for some videos on YouTube, you will perhaps see some people using oxyacetylene torches or blow torches, and then there's some burning involved. I don't do that sort of thing, especially here in the house. Fluffy Twiglet, good evening. Sniper 2023, I did indeed. Thank you very much. Well, the original drawing, I mean, this was redrawn a couple of times, but the original drawing, which was based on some reference photographs, that's the original drawing that I did one night on stream. And this is based on doing that, but there are certain things about this, like the face is too long, which got corrected. So that was kind of like a test drawing, and then having done some on other sheets of paper, it then got transferred onto here. And now we're just working at getting the getting all the shading right to make it look better, basically. And I think I said it, but good evening, Fluffy Twiglet. Open packet. An almost empty open packet. Indeed, fluffy twiglets. Do I draw in my dream? I have no idea. I don't remember my dreams. Sniper. But from to infer what you might have meant, I don't spend all day drawing now. I need a lot more practice at drawing. This took me several hours to do. The original drawing before the original outline that got put down on the wood before they applied the pyrography. This particular exercise now is more one of colouring in, than drawing. But there's still sort of quite a lot of understanding of shadow and thing that needs to go into it. But now most of what I do art-wise these days is done completely visibly on stream. Pyrography often is used for memorial pictures. Most of the time, Seb's Elite, I will do pencil sketches on paper first. It's easier to erase on paper than it is on the wood surface. And when I'm happy with a pencil sketch, what I will then do is transfer that using a tracing technique actually onto the wood to create an outline, because really all I'm after is the outline and some idea of where the shadows and hair, for example, is. The right placement for the eyes. If you don't get eyes right, it never works. So sort of getting the proportions right. But then from there on, it's all done freehand. I just decide what I want where and move on from there. If I was doing something, well, a picture like this, for example, let's just pull up Junior here. This one. In this particular case, this was a representation of a photograph. So whilst I drew it in quotes, I actually effectively this is a copy of a photograph, almost exactly. And for this sort of thing where it was meant to represent an actual pet, that this is one of our cats. This is Junior. In that particular case, it's an almost direct copies the outline of a photograph. But with the lion here, I looked at quite a few photographs and drew my own from scratch, just looking at them to get an idea of proportions and lighting effects and things like that. What's my next project? An animal? Not really. What I think I will do next just for a change is not do an animal although that kind of that's a reindeer, of course, but do some pyrography on here, maybe a log cabin and some trees, a fence perhaps, or maybe just a path, just something on there. What I was thinking of doing there is doing the same scene on the other side, but do it as a nighttime scene rather than a daytime scene. That's probably what I'll be working on next, but until I actually finish this I won't make that decision. I may do some chainmail. There's a couple of pieces I want to have a go at or extend. There's one this is a bracelet which I actually want to extend into a necklace, so I may do that. Or it's just possible I'll get the carving tools out and we'll do some carving. Fur must be a pain to do. Depends on how it's done. Seb's Elite. And thank you very much for following. That's absolutely fantastic of you. There is more than one way to do fur. the nose here of this lion is fur. Obviously, it's a cat. The nose is a fur, covered in fur. What this is just straight shading, like taking the side of a pencil and just shading in. This around here is done a bit like taking a a very sharp pencil and drawing it hair by hair by hair. Now obviously there's not as many hairs on here as there would be in a real lion, and it doesn't quite work like you do with a pencil, but it's that sort of idea. And then there's a different technique here where instead of, this is like painting on top of the wood, this is like I've cut actually into the wood. So there's like, as well as what I do is I use this tool particularly, and I use it so that instead of using it flat, I use it on an end. And when you do that, because the end is sort of a right angle piece of metal, when you do that with it heated, it actually cuts into the wood. So that looks like hair, this feels like hair, if you want to describe it that way. And then you get sort of finer looking hair here. So this sort of suits the nose, which is really fine hair. Is just smooth. The sort of the slightly longer hair here is done using that cutting technique, and then the really long mane is done using this rounded tool, a sort of a laid on top effect. Is it a pain to do? When you've got a lot like this, yes, it can be. It's also fun though to do something that looks realistic, and it's just lots of repetition. It's not hard. I'll qualify that it's not hard for me to do it. But it is lots of repetition, and that sometimes, you know, can get a little bit irritating. You want it to be done faster. But there again, quite often with a piece of music going, I can sit at a pyrography and I can do things like this for hours, and you just lose sense of time. So okay, if I actually zoom in, it might show, you might be able to see it a little bit better, and then I'll zoom out again. That is the camera control, isn't it? Yes. Let's see if I can do an extreme zoom on this and see if it'll actually focus. No, not autofocus, actual focus. Why did it go to autofocus? Okay, that's a... that may be about the best I can do to get this this close up, but hopefully you can see that looks kind of smooth. I'll try now and focus on this fur here, which just needs a little. There we go. Hopefully, sort of just around there, you can see it's almost like little cuts, and well, in fact, it is little cuts. It's like a little V-shaped cut in the wood, and essentially one side of it is cooked brown, or if I reverse the tool, the other side, and then this area here is what's just laid on top. So there's no cuts involved in this at all. Well, thank you. In respect to that, I'm not sure it looks better close up, but there again, I'm the artist and I'm looking at it close up. I always think it looks better on the screen than it does in real life. This is I have a tendency to classify pictures by how far back you have to stand to make them look good, and that ranges anything from about 60 miles down to about 1 foot. This is to me. I would classify this at about a 3 foot picture. You need to be about 3 feet away to see it at its best. Let me zoom back out now. It's a bit of an extreme close up, is that? We've got a little bit there. We'll leave it about that. So how long does it take? This is probably going to take somewhere in the order of about stream time about 30 hours, work time 12 to 15 to complete. That's because like now I'm talking and I'm not actually doing work. So some of the other work that I've done on stream, I've gone through the videos with the intent of time-lapsing them. So I've been cutting out the times when I'm not actually doing any work, and generally speaking I will actually work for about half the time of a stream. Is there a problem in the ears? Yeah, it doesn't look very good, does it? It's down to shading, and I will have to do some more work on the shading. What you've got here is you've got the edge of the ear. In cats' ears, big cats are the same. Right along the inside ear of the cat, to quite a distance into the ear, but right along the skin, there's really fine hairs, and really short fine hairs. It's very silky feeling and soft feeling. But then what you get across the entrance to the ear is lots of basically just random hair in quite large sort of tufts. Don't actually know what they're for, but my guess is it's to stop things like bugs flying in and stuff. And then of course you've got the dark area of the inner ear. It doesn't look fantastically good. I've got some more work to do. A lot of it is to do with the shading. As you get closer down, this area here should be shaded darker than up here. But this is just an initial sort of blocking and a little bit of random hair around there. And I did this near the start when I wasn't quite sure what was going to be the best technique to use for the hair, the long hair. I've changed my mind about 3 times, so that needs some more work on it, definitely. Lots of cats actually do that. It's almost as though there's like the skin comes down and then there's kind of like a little tiny bowl. It sort of splits 2 ways, and there's a sort of like you can almost put your finger inside it. Lots of cats have that, and lots of the big cats, the lions that I saw, did it. So that's kind of what's going on in this area here, but it's in shadow. Yeah, don't know what it is or what reason Seb's elite. I don't know why cats have that, but they do seem to. Both Junior and Felix, who this one's Felix. Both of them have it as well. I've not you can't really see it on this one. Amazingly, actually, they both have it on their left ear. I don't know quite why. I guess that's just genetics, random, whatever. And I've just realised that now, because of course it's left ear. It's the cat's left. It's this lion's left ear as well. Pure coincidence. Pure coincidence. Right. Talking of hours, I will carry on. I could have done all the fur just using shading, so you'd have had something that would represent like a black and white photograph. Everything is shaded, but I kind of do like the textured look, and so it takes extra time. Yay, see face. We've got another cat here. She's sat just over the other side of the studio. But with these glasses on, I can't actually see that one to check. Cleo? Hello, Cleo. No, you're going to totally ignore me. I think she's got one on her right here, but I'm not sure. One of the one of the techniques that I use, because it suits the way I work often, though, is to sort of do large, almost blocks of colour or shading. So the fact that that's not right doesn't worry me. I will do large areas, like I've got a lot of hair down here that needs to be reshaded, and some up here. But I'll do that. I'll do a sort of a rough outline, and then I'll keep adding more and more detail into it as I work along. I will come back to that, do some more work on it. Hopefully it'll get better. If it doesn't, I've learnt something. If it does, I've learnt something. Worst case is it gets filed in the round portfolio. And I don't mind. I've learnt something either way, whatever happens to it. I've never drawn lions before, so if I do a lion before again, I'll know to take a bit more care with the ears. Talking of cats and hares, and for this, there is fur on this, real fur on here. One of the cats has obviously been brushing itself past this bit of wood, and when you catch them with the pyrography tool, it's hot enough to cook the hair. Cooked hair is not a pleasant smell. Yeah, she has it on both. Okay. You know, it's the sort of thing you notice and then don't notice. So I actually don't know whether both of ours have. I think both of the two boys both have it on the left. But you've got me now. I'll have a look the next time one of them appears. I'd go have a look at Cleo, but who's the female cat? But A, it involves me putting everything down and going over there, and B, I've got a cold. I don't feel like getting up. Okay. There you go. Learn something new every day. I wonder how they do it. Because certainly on at least one of ours, it is literally more like a cup than anything else. But maybe it's because it's thinner skin or something. Oh well, there we go. I love things like that happen on this stream. We quite often will find out things that we didn't know before. Yeah, but that needs to at least blend in with the rest. Yeah, that'll do. just looking at the texture on screen. It kind of looks as though it goes at a right angle there, which looks odd. And it's probably just down to the way I've been doing it, because when I look here, it's curved around. But I think there's just something about the lighting that's making it look that. I don't know. It's 40, must be at least 40 years since I had a dog, so I don't actually know, Seb's Elite. It's not the case if I don't like dogs. I don't mind them at all. Although I do admit I prefer the bigger dogs. Alsatians, Huskies, Dalmatians, you know, the larger sized dogs. I'm not so keen on the small toy dogs. Just because, daft as it sounds, you kind of know where you are more with the big dogs than the little ones. But no, for quite a number of years, you know, once I left home, I was living by myself, so pets weren't really a great idea. And once I got married, my wife, Lady Zara, likes cats. She had 2 cats, wanted to have more cats, so once we got married, then we got cats. And unless she wants a dog, but at the moment it's a case of we don't quite have the room for a large dog, which is the sort of dog that she'd love. And I won't. No, that's wrong. So once we have a bit more room, she's welcome to have a dog, but she has to realise that she will be the one taking it for walks. And I don't think she's quite realised how much walking the big dogs take. Okay. They kind of have a bit of a bad reputation, though. Do some of those, and I know it's down to training and things like that. Yeah. Yeah. Especially as, for example, just this evening here in the UK, in Yorkshire, we have had we've had a thunderstorm. It's not actually been a thunderstorm, but it's been raining really, really heavily. And you still have to take the dog out for a walk. Either that, or I guess you could buy a treadmill, but indeed, they're just a very loyal breed, but you've got to train them right, and they've got to know who the leader is. And when they do, and they trust you, then there's no problems. Yeah, you got to play by the rules, and when you play by the rules. still looks to have an odd kink there. No, not. I don't. Seb's Elite. Couple of things. One of the things you'll see down here is a roll of pictures. There's a lot of jewellery there, but there will be some other photographs pop up from time to time in the roll of some of the pyrography and the other crafts. I just happen to have done more jewellery, individual pieces of jewellery. A piece like that's on screen now, or that one, maybe takes a stream. This of course takes about 10, 15 streams, so there's just more jewellery than there is these other pieces. And I am in the process, and I keep saying I'm in the process of just creating a website which will showcase the each of the pieces, tell you something about them, why I chose to do them, if there's something particularly fancy about the technique that's being used, it'll tell you a little bit about that as well. Not only just for the pyrography, but for the carving and the punchcraft and things like that. So I am hoping it will go live soon. Is all I can say. It's not finished, but it is close to the stage where I can take it live and then just keep adding to it. But unfortunately, not just yet. I'm not. It's not something I particularly put stuff on. Isn't DeviantArt? I'm not. It's an interesting place. I kind of could do that. I'm not really into. I enjoy doing the art. I'm not particularly into showing it in quotes, which is something about what DeviantArt's about. But it's also about feedback from other artists of pointing out where things could be better, which I'm fine about. But I've just never got round to it, to be honest. That's the problem, you see. I've got plenty of square turrets, but I don't have any round ones. Never have any round ones. So unfortunately, there's all these things that are waiting until some arrive from somewhere. Sorry, that's a bit of an English joke. Is that just a lighting effect, or... No, it's not. Okay. Because every time you use a pyrography tool on wood, if you're into cooking meat, for example, you'll know as you cook the meat, it gets smaller. Wood is exactly the same. If you cook the surface of it, it gets smaller. It shrinks away from the tool, and depending on the tool shape, you'll get different shapes of shrinkage. This one tends to create dips. The one earlier tends to either create these lines, these cuts, or it just creates like a slice out of the wood. I can feel the edge around it, but I can't feel any in the middle. And with sort of fairly harsh lighting, which I've got here, quite directional lighting, it does change as you change the angle of the light. And when you look at it, sometimes you see certain things that I can see certain things on screen that I can't see in person, just because the camera's looking at it at a different lighting angle. And so sometimes I have to sort of just move the thing around just to see what it is the camera's seeing. You can do it on leather, bone, gourds, reeds, leather. You can actually do it on most organic substances. The problem with doing it on organic substances is you're cooking the organic substance, and sometimes some things are not as pleasant to cook as others. If you do pyrography on bone, for example, or like antlers, which are hair, it's a terrible smell. It really is. If you have ever smelt somebody who's accidentally set fire to the hair, it's a really horrible smell. You get that. You actually get it on leather as well. Not so bad on leather, generally speaking, because it's dried. But the problem is a lot of leather has been chemically tanned, or has got chemical additives in it. So when you apply heat to pyrograph on it, you of course are releasing all those chemicals. Some of them are not very pleasant at all, and some of them potentially are downright dangerous. So you do have to be very careful about how you do it on leather. But yes, it's possible to do it on leather. I haven't done it, no. No particular reason, but I've also had no particular reason to do it either. Doing it on things like bone and antlers, or horn, would potentially be something I might try in the future with a respirator, and possibly outside if Lady Zara has anything to say about it. Just because that's kind of more of the, in quotes, the ancient art of pyrography. A lot sailors did that a lot on things like whalebone and large sort of fish bone. And sort of Japanese did it a lot on bones as well, you know, in a long time ago, shall we say. So there's that. What I might try it on is some gourds. Apparently they're not too unpleasant to do it on. Yeah. Often though, there's easier ways of doing that, Sebzilate. Things like airbrushing onto leather, or just general leather staining with a paintbrush. You can produce almost as good a look or a different look. But yes, it is a possibility. Depends on the leather as well. The darker the leather, the harder the pyrography. That's not so much the fact that it's not that the leather is dark that suddenly makes it, suddenly increases the how much heat it needs or something like that. The colour doesn't affect the pyrography as such, but what it does do is it gives you a limited palette. I'm doing this on birch, which is quite a light wood. And if you look across here, that you can probably see from completely uncoloured to being almost as dark as it'll go. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I can see something like 9 or 10 different shades on here. And I've not been particularly trying hard to do that many shades. A lot of the time all you need to do is worry about where two come together, not the whole thing. But if I take a different wood like this one, which is hardboard, this wood is darker. So if you sort of look, where's it come? It's sort of around, you know, one of these shades here. So I'm not able to produce this shade or this shade on this wood because this wood is already darker than that. So either I have to be very very skilled to produce really subtle changes, or essentially I might only have half the number of shades available to me. So where I may have 10 on here, I may only have 5 or 6 on here. So something like a dark jacket, for example, you might end up with only 3 or 4 shades. So there's no reason why you can't pyrograph on that. You don't have to use shading. Because you can just use monochrome. So something like this is just a straight one colour design. So you can, you know, you if this was dark wood, it would still look the same. It just wouldn't stand out as much. So yes, you could do that. The other thing though that you would take into consideration with doing it on leather, something like a jacket, and assuming you could do it before some of the leather preservative has been added, it does dry out leather. You are cooking the leather, you're cooking it, you're removing moisture, so it does make it more prone to cracking, and you do have to sort of in quotes feed the leather, which is essentially apply a moisturizer to it. But yeah, there's all sorts of interesting things. I just have too many things that I'd like to try to already without particularly going out and buying a jacket to try it on. There are certainly certain different styles to or techniques to use on things like leather. Oh, excuse me. I've got hiccups now. It may be something I'll try one of these days, and learn, you know, to learn the techniques of doing it. But before I get to that, I've got some rotary carving stuff I want to try out first. Yeah, they'll go in a little bit. I think it's the cold that's causing it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, if everybody liked the same thing, then it wouldn't be quite so much fun. Some of the pyrographic artists that you might see on YouTube, Gene Buick is one of them. Does some absolutely fantastic pyrographic work that does almost look like a photograph, like an old sepia photograph. And I could never imagine it being that good on leather, to be honest. But everybody to their own. Nakamui, good evening. Welcome to the studio and to my hiccups. put the put a fan on. It's a bit warm in here. Ah dear. I've had them on and off all day. In theory, you can pyrograph eggshells as well, just through a natural substance, an organic substance. And they're one thing I'd like to try, because I also want to try rotary carving them. I do high-speed rotary carving on wood, and I'd like to try it on eggshells, and it would be a good way of combining both the pyrography and the carving into one thing, especially on something like an ostrich egg or something like that. Oh dear. I will try and control them. Where's the pen's gone? Oh dear. At this stage, I don't know whether I'd rather have the hiccups or a cold. Actually, I'd rather not have either. Well, I would say at this moment in time, Seb's Elite, one of the things is my voice is, because of the cold, my voice is dropping in register a little bit. But quite a few people have said the same thing. I have a radio voice. I don't know whether it's natural or training, but one of the, it's a good few years ago now, but one of the jobs that I did was lecturing, and one of the things that you were taught at that point is to reduce the range of your voice, so you've not got really high and low peaks, and you can still put over enthusiasm, but you don't start raising and lowering your voice, shouting and whispering and things like that. You're not acting. You're trying to impart information, and people hear it better if you've got a reasonably consistent tone. And it may well have come from that. But thank you very much for the compliment. I will get rid of these hiccups, probably, knowing my luck, right at the end of the stream. Yeah. It's not so bad having hiccups when you've got pyrography. A lot of the time it doesn't, you're not that precise, but when I was airbrushing I used to really hate it when you're trying to do a really fine line and you hiccup. Okay, Seb's Elite. It's coming up to what? To about 9:25 in the UK here, so we're getting there. Well, hopefully it will relax you into a nice, pleasant evening's sleep, and you'll wake up feeling absolutely refreshed tomorrow and come back and see me again tomorrow night. Ah dear. No, I don't. No. I whilst I also don't remember the last episode of having hiccups. I do know I can control them. The bit about the end of the stream is just pure. You know, whenever you don't want whatever. If I don't want hiccups, don't want to get hiccups, you can guarantee that when I will get them, will be within the stream. You know, the least. It's just Murphy's law. When it's least convenient for something to happen is when it will happen. It's like if you've lost a vitally important tool. Murphy says you will find it the instant you no longer need it. So as soon as you've done whatever it is using something else, you'll go, and that's where that tool is. Hiccups are the same. That edge still looks odd. Still looks odd. It's something that'll bug me for a while until I can sort of correct it in some way, or at least adjust it. This is about the longest they've lasted all day. No. So I'm just trying a relaxation technique there, just to see if I can make them go away. Talking, of course, doesn't help, but with hiccups. But dear. I must admit, though, they are getting really annoying at the moment. Yeah. I just know they're going to disappear, as I say. Another half hour and they'll go. Good job I'm actually doing wavy lines. I'm trying to do sort of semi-random lengths and angles and things like that, which actually is quite hard to do, except when you've got hiccups. Hiccups tend to make things quite random, quite nicely. And we're not gonna go away just yet, I'm afraid. Must be that fan that's doing it. Yeah, looks like it. One of the things I was just having a problem with there was, for some reason, the tool wasn't producing the colour of line that I was expecting. It was almost as though it wasn't being heated. And one of the causes for that sometimes is just the connector is loose. They're not. I don't find these connectors on these pens to be great for power usage, which is the use that they're putting them to here. They're really intended for audio, but you know they're doing the job. But sometimes they get a bit loose, and you don't actually get as good a power transfer as you should. And when that happens, the tool basically doesn't heat up as much, and you don't get the result that you're expecting. And that's what I thought was happening. But what it has just turned out to be is I did have a fan running next to me, and that fan, whilst it wasn't blowing on the work here, was moving enough air over this pen to actually keep the tip cooler than it should have been, hence not getting the colour, and also looking like it wasn't connecting properly. I don't think that's particularly true, Nakamui, but thank you very much for the confidence there. There are quite a few really excellent artists out there. I may be one of the best pyrographers. I'm not one of the best acrylic painters, for example. You take some oil. You take someone like Miss Cookies, for example. But there again, I've never worked in acrylics or oil, so I wouldn't necessarily be the best. But thank you. I think at this moment in time, I'm probably the only artist on Twitch with hiccups. Was it? Sig. Thank you very much. Not quite sure how to pronounce the name, but welcome. dear. Turning the piece around here for those people that may not be familiar with it, when you're working on small pieces, that's one of the things that's nice to be able to do in whatever art form. And the reason is I'm doing curves. The hairs have got a curve in them, and if I do it with the inside radius of my arm, they're natural curve. They come out a lot smoother than if you're trying to do them against your natural curve. Sometimes you've got no choice, especially if you're working on a large canvas, material, whatever. But if you've got the option, you've got the capability to do it when you're working on a piece. It's a good thing to take up that opportunity. You get better lines. Of course, at the current time, I'm now being lazy and not bothering turning the piece around. Oh dear, the hiccups are really annoying. In fact, I tell you what, I think I'm going to stop for this evening. The hiccups are bothering me enough now. They're starting to get painful. So I want to try and just control them, which I can't easily do while I'm talking or whilst I'm trying to pyrography But I am, so I've been a bit slowed down this stream, but I'm quite pleased with the way this is coming. I'm still not fantastically happy about the texturing that's showing up on screen. It's showing up less here, and I've yet to quite work out what it is that's causing that. There's almost and it may be something I'm doing subconscious because of the edge there, or it may well be just that it looks like that because of that edge. The intent is that it's supposed to sweep sort of downwards, so that's the back. Back. Actually, it might not be as bad as it seems. I'm just thinking that this is the shoulder of the lion is about this sort of level on its back, or it would be. And so this fur would go down the back there and then start to come around to come over the, not necessarily over the shoulder as such, but it's the forward part of the neck around here. So it does kind of change direction. So that actually might not be as bad as it seems. And I think what I perhaps should do is carry on with more of the shading around. Forget about that for now. Do some shading up here and around the bottom here. And that may take care of itself. It may actually end up looking correct when I finish, rather than messing around with it now and it turn messing it up. I do need to make the fur a bit more darker still. This is intended to be in shadow just around here, and hence that dark shadow there. But I need to darken this around it as well. It's a bit light compared to that. So a bit more work to do there, but then there is all the mane down here to shade. So these hiccups are not going away. I know as soon as I close the stream they will, but quite frankly that's a price worth paying at the moment because they're starting to hurt, and I've got a sore throat which isn't fantastically helping. So I'm going to turn that off. What I'm going to do at this point is say thank you everybody that is watching. I will point out that all these photographs that you're seeing here of jewellery are items that I have done, but they're also available in the shop mentioned just above it. There we go. And Moobot has been dropping a link in from time to time. So Seb Zilly, thank you very much. Have a good evening, have a good sleep, and if there's anybody else that's watching and isn't following, I kind of encourage you to do so, but I would. I'm the streamer. Why wouldn't I encourage you to follow? But do so if you'd like. If you don't, doesn't matter. If you'd like notifications from Twitter instead of Twitch, you could get those by following me on Twitter. It's at @ErgonArt. The details are below the stream window, and they will be on the end plate in a moment. So if you come back later, you can always find them there. If you'd just like to catch me tomorrow evening, subject to being well enough to stream, I'll be on from about 8 PM UK time, 2000 hours UTC or GMT. All three are the same at the moment. That's roughly 1 hour 50, just coming up to 2 hours ago. So a little bit of maths will tell you in your own time zone. Thanks everybody. Hopefully my hiccups will have gone by then. And I'm year 3 ESL. Hopefully I got that right. Sorry, with all these odd names, sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge. But thank you very much for following. I'm year 3. Yeah, it looks like I'm year 3 ESL. Thank you everybody. Hope I'll see you in the future, possibly tomorrow, and have a great evening. Bye bye for now.